Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. Today we are diving into the world of web security to unravel one of the most crucial protocols out there, OAuth 2.0. Whether you're a developer, a tech enthusiast, or just curious on how your favorite apps keep your data safe, this video is for you. In this video, we look at what OAuth 2.0 is, what is a typical usage scenario for OAuth is. We will then take a look at OAuth flow, key components or systems in that flow, and the data being transferred across systems in the OAuth flow. By the end of this video, apart from this, you will also have a firm grip on the various key terms like resource owner, client, authorization server, resource server, redirect or callback URL, response types, scopes, consent, client ID, client secret, authorization code, access token, and so on. Without further delay, let's dive in. Let us understand what OAuth 2.0 is. OAuth 2.0 is an authorization framework that allows third-party services to securely access a user's data without exposing their credentials. You could think of this as you are authorizing or giving permission to someone to access some of your data, but you are not sharing your credentials with them. OAuth is a standard that allows you to do this. Now let us look at a scenario where OAuth can help you put this into practice. As you are finding the current social media scene with Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and so on pretty boring and not addictive enough, you are on the lookout for yet another app. You found a cool new social media app called Chattermatter, and this is pretty awesome. Meanwhile, your family is spending too much time with each other. They are not really into the social media as you are. Now you are pretty lonely and you want your family also to be like you. Since you're brilliant, you devise a plan for this. You will share this addictive social media app with all your family and contacts and get them hooked. And they would start looking at their phones more, and eventually they will be as lonely as you are. To share the app download links, your idea is to send out emails to all the contacts in your Gmail account. Conveniently, Chattermatter has a killer feature to send the emails to all the contacts in your Gmail account. And even better, they don't need your Gmail credentials too. This is where OAuth 2.0 comes in. Now let us look at OAuth flow. As a user, you open the feature in Chattermatter web app to send email to all your contacts in your Gmail account. The website redirects to the authorization server, which in this case is the Google's authorization server. While redirecting, the Chattermatter site sends some details like client ID, redirect URI, response type, and scope. We will take a deeper look at all these terms later. Now, due to the redirection, a browser is now showing Google's pages, which will verify the user and, if needed, prompt the user for login. It will then show a consent form asking the user to explicitly give or deny permissions. Once the user accepts the consent, Google authorization server redirects back to the redirect URL. The redirect URL was sent in the initial redirection from Chattermatter. This callback or redirection will send something called as authorization code. Authorization code is a short-lived code which can be later exchanged for an access token. Now the Chattermatter client on the browser, because of the redirect, you are in the Chattermatter screen. The Chattermatter client then submits the authorization code to the Chattermatter server. The Chattermatter server then calls the authorization server with the authorization code along with the client ID and client secret. As you can imagine, for this flow to work, there is an agreement and a configuration that was done as part of the initial setup. This is when the authorization server provides a client ID and client secret to the Chattermatter. Client secret is like a password. The client secret has to be kept securely on the server, which is the main reason why the step to exchange the authorization code with the access token has to be done from the server. The client cannot securely store the client secret. The client, in the sense, the browser, cannot store that securely. The server has to store it securely. The authorization server will then send back an access token. In reality, there can be other tokens like refresh token, user token, or ID token, and so on. For this discussion, we'll keep it simple and with just the access token. So this access token has a validity period. This is set by the authorization server and is usually configurable, like 5 minutes or 15 minutes and so on. The need for this refresh token, which I was talking about, arises when the access token expires after the set validity period and we need to get a new access token without prompting the user to log in again. So after 15 minutes, if it gets expired, the refresh token, which is also received from the authorization server, can be used to refresh and get a new access token. Let us forget about that for now. Now the chatter matter server has got the access token. The chatter matter server can now call the resource server and request for the resource. The resource server in this case is Gmail, and the resources that are requested for are the contacts of this user. When calling the resource server, the chatter matter sends the access token received from the authorization server. Now the resource server or the Gmail server validates the access token and sends back the contacts to the chatter matter server. The chatter matter server can then send out emails to all the contacts with the download link. This is the OAuth 2.0 flow and covers the main concepts in this flow. Now let us take a look at some of the key terms and their definitions. Resource owner. Resource owner is you, is the actual user, end user, the owner of the identity or the data. So this is the resource owner because you own the resources in the Gmail. Client. Client is the application that needs your consent to access some data or perform actions on your behalf. So chatter matter in this case is the client. Chatter matter, the application in itself. Client has the browser level component in this case and the server component also. But chatter matter is the client. Authorization server, the application that knows the resource owner. So in this case, the authorization server is Google's authorization server. Resource server. Resource server is the API or the service that the client wants to use on behalf of the resource owner. So in this case, the client wants to use Gmail to get the access to get the contacts. So resource server is the Gmail. Sometimes the authorization server and resource server may be the same server. It can also be different servers and even part of different organizations. So in this example, we have shown the resource server and the authorization server as two different servers. In some cases, it can be the same server. In some cases, it can be different and even part of different organizations as well. Redirect URI or callback URL. So this is the URL the authorization server will redirect the resource owner back to after granting the permission to the client. If you look at this flow, the redirect URI is sent in the request or in the redirection to the authorization server. Once the user accepts the consent, authorization server will redirect back to whatever URI that was shared. Response type. The type of information that the client expects to receive. A common response type is code, like an authorization code. So the response type in this case is authorization code, which is what the authorization server is sending back. Scope. Scope is a granular permissions that the client wants, like read contacts, update contacts, and so on. So this is the scope. So it is like read contact. What is the permission needed? Consent. The authorization server takes the scope the client has requested and verifies with the resource owner on whether to allow or deny permission. So it's like a screen listing the scope and asking the resource owner to click on accept or deny. You would have seen this in many of the interactions, the OAuth interactions you have done. Client ID. This identifier is used to identify the client with the authorization server. The client ID used here and here as well. This is how the authorization server knows that this is chatter matter that is requesting for authorization. Client secret. Client secret is like a password which only the client and authorization server knows. So client secret has to be kept a secret, just like a password. Authorization code. This is a short-lived temporary code that the authorization server sends back to the client. The client then sends this authorization code back to the authorization server along with the client's secret in exchange for an access token. So if you look at the authorization code is sent back from the authorization server. The same authorization code is sent to the authorization server again to fetch the access token. Access token. the key the client will use from that point on to communicate with the resource server. As you can see, once it receives the access token, it will use the access token to communicate to the resource server to fetch resources or to perform some actions. In conclusion, OAuth 2.0 is a powerful tool that enables secure and seamless interaction between users, service providers, and third party apps. Whether you are browsing social media, shopping online, or using your favorite productivity tools, OAuth 2.0 is working behind the scenes to keep your data safe and your experience smooth. And that's a wrap for today. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more tech insights. Until next time, stay curious and stay secure.